what's up? Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Sarah Sutton. I'm an indie author of 6 young adult romance books, and the 6th one is titled Christmas as We Know It. It is a Christmas romance, and it is linked down below along with the rest of the books. And if you're a returning subscriber, welcome back to my channel. I have my coffee. It is actually almost gone, but I'm still nursing it. We're continuing on with the kind of wrap-up summary videos for 2021, which feels very sad that we're wrapping out 2021, to be honest. I feel like it was a really good year. It was my 2nd year of self-publishing, which we're going to talk all about. That's like the topic of the video, comparing year 1 self-publishing to year 2. Before we dive in fully, I do want to say today's video is sponsored. We have yet another sponsorship by Hot Ghostwriter, and I'm going to talk more about it in a little bit, but I wanted to say thank you to Hot Ghostwriter for sponsoring today's video. And so, I guess without further ado, let's dive into the video. I feel like it's really weird to reflect on years like this, mostly because between year 1 and year 2, I feel like there's simultaneously some growth, but not a lot. I was looking back on my year 1 self-publishing video, trying to get an idea of how I wanted to film this one and organize this one, and what to talk about, what I talked about in that video. And in that video, I basically kind of recapped the first 3 books that I had published that year, the only 3 books that I had published that year. I kind of recapped what they were about, and my thought process behind publishing them. And while I think that's very interesting, I think I want to talk more about the business side of things in this video, mostly because for those of you who are here, most of you do know my 6 published books, and if you don't, I actually recapped them in the previous kind of wrap-up videos in last week, so definitely go check out those videos if you haven't already. I gave a brief recap, and they're always linked down below for you guys to go check them out on Amazon and read the blurbs and things as well. We're getting a UPS delivery. Is it something for me? I ordered so many things. I don't even know what I ordered at this point. So the package, in fact, was not for me. Where'd I put my freaking coffee? Why'd I take it with me? Lord, we're not even 5 minutes into the video. Are you joking? Hello? How are you? I also just stepped on a thumbtack, so this is just not my day. So we're gonna just talk about the business things, how my mindset has changed from year 1 to year 2, and as a whole, how am I feeling about my self-publishing career and my growth, or lack thereof? Let's dive in. Self-publishing is something that, to me, is a very entrepreneurial thing. It requires a business mindset from me, and it is a business more than a hobby for me. I know for a lot of people self-publishing is different, but for me, I do view it as a career that I'm really crossing my fingers to blossom and learn as much as I go. And I think it makes complete sense that between year 1 and year 2, I would have learned so much more. I think it makes complete sense. And I think as for the mindset shift, in year 1, I feel like I liked to say that I was, being all sophisticated and business-esque. I wasn't. I went into self-publishing my first year with the intentions of not selling books. So I had started off thinking, I'm just publishing this to publish it and get an understanding of what self-publishing is like. That's how I started off with What Are Friends For. I mentioned it in the previous videos, but I only expected to sell 50 copies of What Are Friends For. So I went into this whole thing not expecting much from this realm, and so I feel like that starting off with that mindset wasn't the best for year 1. It didn't set me off in the best spot because I went into it with low hopes, low expectations, and due to what I think is the pandemic, my books sold really well. What Are Friends For picked up really well around March. Out of My League had always been a pretty good seller in that year. Those 2 books popped off in 2020. And I do think the pandemic had a huge role to play since people were home and they were reading, you know what I'm saying? And it was wintertime, so it's not like they could be outside walking trails or anything like that. I'm not a nature person, so I don't really know what people do outside. So I went into it with this, I'm not going to sell that many books mindset, and the books kind of popped off, and then that skewed my perception as well, because when you do really, really well, you think, oh my gosh, it's always going to stay this great. When does that ever happen? So going into 2021, I actually experienced a lull pretty quickly. I think it was February I had a sale on What Are Friends For, so that month was good. March and April and May. Those months I made considerably less money. My books performed considerably less in the store, in the Amazon store, and the Drafted Digital stores. And then when I published Two Kinds of Us, I kind of panicked because that was one of my lowest releases in terms of pre-orders, day of sales, and weekly sales, as well as reviews. It was kind of scary because it was my biggest book. I sent it out to the most ARC team that I've had in a while, the biggest ARC team that I've had. I would not say it flopped because it did not flop. And if you have watched the Did I Make My Money Back video, you will have known that this book did not make its money back. It is close, but it still has not made its money back. So I wouldn't say it's a flop because it is close and it's only been out for 6 months. But it definitely was my lowest, performing release. And I started to freak out because I'm like, well, shoot, why did this one perform so poorly? It had established tropes. It was longer. It had more of a rock star element. It just had a different overall vibe from the rest of my books. Not too different that it didn't feel like they connected, but just I felt like it was one of my better books yet. So I don't think that dreamer mindset really set me up for success, the dreamer mindset from 2020. I don't think it set me up for success, but I learned to kind of pivot, and that is a good thing. So I went into 2021. I'll talk about it in my 2021 goals video, which is coming. At this point, I have no idea because I'm filming videos so far in advance. My 2021 goals video is coming, but in my 2021 goals, I had said that I wanted to publish 4 books in 2021. So I wanted to publish Can't Catch My Breath, Two Kinds of Us, my Christmas book, and then 1 book that ended up not getting published. And if you've been a follower of this channel since around summertime, you'll have known that I was working on a book that I titled Edith's Book. Edith is a side character from Out of My League, and I wanted to give her her own story. The problem came in because Edith's book was too interconnected to Out of My League. It kind of made sense that they could be a duology, but then that meant taking Out of My League out of my Love in Fenton County series, which is my 5-book standalone series. That didn't quite make sense to me. And I figured, if people thought they had to read Out of My League to read Edith's book, I wasn't so sure that would work because then it would have to be in reading order, and I just didn't want to do it that way. But that's not the only reason that I shelved Edith's book. I could have maybe figured out a way to make that book work and publish it, but there was another reason why I shelved it. Since Two Kinds of Us was my lowest release, and looking back, Can't Catch My Breath did well. It did better than If the Broom Fits, but I could see a steady decline. So I started off really, really high with What Are Friends For and Out of My League, and then the last 3 books in the series, they did okay. And then Two Kinds of Us did less than I expected, performed less than I expected. At that point, it kind of felt like I was holding on to, I don't want to say a dying series, but that's kind of what it felt like. I was holding on to this series that maybe the read-through was dropping off. And so I could have published Edith's book. Edith's book could have been number 6. I actually had 2 more books in the Love in Fenton County series. They were going to be Molly's book, who is a side character from Can't Catch My Breath, as well as Margot's book, who is a side character from Two Kinds of Us. I was going to publish those 2 books as well, but I kind of realized, maybe it's time to put this series to rest. It kind of started off really as a learning series because Out of My League, What Are Friends For, If the Broom Fits, they were not interconnected whatsoever. They're all in the same county, and there's some teeny little Easter eggs littered throughout, but I would say Can't Catch My Breath and Two Kinds of Us are more interconnected as they have characters who kind of cross over a little bit. You don't have to read them in order, but they're still more interconnected than the first 3 books of the series. Now I know I wouldn't do that again. I would not make 3 kind of completely standalone books and then add 2 interconnected books onto that series. Now I know what I should have done is take Can't Catch My Breath, Two Kinds of Us, and then Margot and Molly's book, and made that a series. That's what I should have done. But at this point, it kind of felt too little, too late. So instead of holding on to that and dragging it out and kind of making a hodgepodge of a series, which is what it would have been, I decided, you know what? Edith's book isn't going to work because it is too interconnected to Out of My League. And then Molly and Margot's book are too interconnected to Can't Catch a Breath and Two Kinds of Us. It kind of would just feel so awkward. And I just figured, you know what? It's time to put this series to rest and start new with the things that I've learned since starting my self-publishing career. And so I do think that in year 2, I have grown to have more of a business mindset. I started my Patreon in year 1 of my self-publishing career, but I have expanded it into my multiple tiers in year 2. So I feel like that as well has also like kind of helped my business mindset, my entrepreneurial mindset. I got monetized year 1 of my self-publishing career, but I'm starting to make kind of some good money now in year 2. And I am now working with an ads company. So they are running my Facebook ads for me because y'all, I cannot figure out ads for the life of me. I dabble and I think I got it and then they tank and then they just don't work and I'm like, I don't understand the process behind ads. Like, somebody help me. Which is why I hired an ads team and they are fantastic. That's another thing that I have grown on. I've learned to reach out when I do need help. You know, I've been writing for, I don't know, since I was like 6 or 7, since I actually learned how to actually write, I have been writing. So I feel like, and if you didn't know, my first story was a Gingerbread Man fan fiction, and not like in the weird way fan fiction, but like fan fiction where I had the Gingerbread Man character and I made him go on his own new adventures. It was just very bizarre. But I've been writing for a long time and the journey has been interesting. I've bounced around in genres until I finally found this one that sticks, which is young adult romance. I used to really be heavily in the fantasy / paranormal genre, which you would think that's weird because I am so hardcore young adult romance. And honestly, if you read my fiction, my fantasy or paranormal work, you'd be like, yeah, Sarah, we can tell you should be writing romance because the world building is weak. Like, I focused way too much on the love story. It's fine. I think writing for so long has helped this journey because I feel like I know my writing process a whole lot more now. I actually just discovered something about myself that is actually a common reoccurring theme when it comes to drafting, and it was very interesting. And at first I kind of beat myself up for it because it didn't feel like the correct way. There is no correct way when you're writing a book or when you're publishing a book or when you're doing anything, you know what I mean? So I think this year has taught me so much about myself and how I write and how I publish and how I work and how I tick. And that is actually really cool to me. And I think that's one of the bigger things that I'm grateful for this year because I've been able to kind of grow more in this business area of self-publishing. And I've been able to find my footing and find my confidence a bit more in it and kind of find my love for it. Because in year 1, I was starry-eyed. I was so excited. Like, you know, books were selling. Everything was great. 2021, things kind of fell into a lull. I was stressed, but I was still grateful for where I was at in the journey. And I could recognize the beauty in like the lulls. Do you know what I mean? Like, it taught me that I'm writing because I love writing, and even if a book doesn't sell, we're going to go again. We're going to write the next book because you don't stop when things are slow. And that was just a really interesting thing that I had to learn this year. And without those lulls, I wouldn't have learned it. So we're going to take a brief pause here and talk about today's sponsor, Hot Ghostwriter. If you didn't know, Hot Ghostwriter is a one-stop shop book production company for like developmental editing, copy editing, book design, book production, and things like that. They work with small and major publishers to publish hundreds of novels every year. And now they're looking to add more writing talent to their growing team of writers. If you love to write and want to get paid for it, this is the perfect job opportunity for you. Being a freelance writer for Hot Ghostwriter, you'll benefit from full-time paid freelance writing work, and it's a great chance to gain experience as a professional writer, especially if you're new to the industry. And while you're writing for Hot Ghostwriter, you're gaining experience while getting paid for it. And speaking of getting paid, if you have about 20 to 30 hours per week to write, you can make $2,000 per month with weekly payments as soon as you're hired. I do have a link in the description box below for you guys to check out Hot Ghostwriter and this job opportunity. All that you need is a love for writing and your best fiction samples. Like I said, the link is in the description and you can apply to work for Hot Ghostwriter today. Thank you to Hot Ghostwriter for sponsoring today's video, and let's dive back in. I know that I said I didn't really want to recap my books too much, but But you know, one thing I realized I do want to do is talk about the ratings and reviews for each book. I don't think it's a reflection of its success, so that's not what I am saying. But I do think it's interesting to see which books have the most reviews. So just diving in, we have What Are Friends For? That is sitting at 259 reviews on the Amazon store. Out of My League is at 192 reviews, which is pretty great. If the Broom Fits is at 114 reviews. Can't Catch Your Breath is at 82 reviews, and I'm really hoping we can hit 100 reviews soon. Two Kinds of Us is sitting at 55 reviews, and then Christmas As We Know It is right now sitting at 26 reviews on the Amazon store, which is actually kind of mind-blowing, to be honest. It could be because it's a shorter book. It's kind of crazy that it's already at 26 reviews. Like I mentioned previously in this video, I had intended to publish 4 young adult romance books this year, and I only published 3. So the expectation versus reality was a bit of a bummer. If things had gone well with Edith's book, pardon me, ma'am, pardon me, can you go lay down somewhere else? If things had gone well with Edith's book, I would have been able to publish it, and that would have been book number 4. But I kind of learned to pivot and to like listen to my gut feeling. That is a whole other topic. Relating to Christmas As We Know It, I talked about it, but I should have listened to my gut feeling with that book for multiple reasons. Anyway, I listened to my gut feeling with Edith's book, and I realized, you know, this book, it might do well on Patreon. Maybe I'll come back to it in the future, but for right now, it's gonna sit on a shelf. And I haven't shelved a book in a very long time, so that felt so bizarre. And then one final question that I want to answer to round out this kind of year 1 and year 2 of self-publishing recap. Why am I self-publishing? Will I continue to self-publish? Do I want to do something different? So I guess that's more than one question. Why I'm self-publishing. I've mentioned it in the past in previous videos, so brief recap. Traditional publishing didn't work out for me. I thought I had a traditional publishing company who was interested in my work. They accepted my work, and then a year later they pulled back their offer, and that kind of left my spirits crushed. And so I decided to try out self-publishing for the very first time with What Are Friends For, just to try it out, just to see how it would do, you know, and see whether or not it was worth it. Because honestly, I knew nothing about self-publishing. When I decided to self-publish, I was 20, and I had been in conversations with that publisher since I was 19. It's only a year, but I started off from 19, and actually even in high school I thought I wanted to be traditionally published. I thought that'd be really awesome, because in high school I knew nothing about self-publishing. I didn't know it was a thing. So when I learned about self-publishing, I was really hesitant about it. I didn't know if it was worth it. I self-published, obviously, 6 books later, and I do think that it's been an interesting journey. I'm not going to lie and say that I haven't thought about like what would have happened if I had traditionally published, what would have happened if I had a team behind me helping me proofread, check things, do you know what I mean? So, I mean, I do have a team of proofreaders, a few people, but like typos slip in, formatting issues always happen, you know, so I do have those thoughts of what if it wasn't just me? Like when bad things happen, it falls fully on you, and it kind of sucks. Self-publishing has taught me so much about myself, which we talked about in this video. It's taught me so much about myself, about my resilience. It's given me some confidence because, you know, I'm not a really confident person. I'm not really a talkative person either. And I feel like self-publishing and this whole world encompassing that, YouTube, Patreon, things like that, I think that has really taught me more about myself and helped me grow into a young adult, you know what I mean? Like I'm 22 right now. I published 6 books. I'm working on my next book series, which I plan to have be 7 books. It's taught me how I write, but it's also taught me who I am. I do have a pen name. My name is Sarah, but my last name is not Sutton, so Sarah Sutton is a pen name. And it's funny because Sarah Sutton feels a lot more like me than my actual name, because this is me. It's taught me that it's okay to be myself and to be funny, and, well, you know, I think I'm funny. To be like weird and quirky and just like myself. Do you know what I mean? It's not embarrassing to be myself. And I think without this self-publishing journey, I would still have been that quiet girl who is afraid to like talk and actually be who she is, which honestly, if that's all that I gained out of this experience, 110% worth it. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to hit that thumbs up button. And let me know what you think of these kinds of videos, these recapping videos. I hope you're enjoying this little mini-series as we finalize and close out 2021. Thank you once again to Hot Ghostwriter for sponsoring today's video. Like I said, the link is in the description box, and go check out that job opportunity at Hot Ghostwriter. Thank you all so much for watching. I'm Sarah Sutton. I'm an indie author of 6 young adult romance books, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!